welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Udit Grober, happy to be here once again. Today on our show, we'll talk to Israeli writer Alona Kimhi. We'll take a look at Egyptian poet Hisham El-Jiah's visit to Israel. And we'll hear about rappers from Equatorial Guinea who dare speak out in a country with no free speech. Our guest today is Alona Kimhi, author, screenwriter, and playwright, also a prolific lyricist, best known for books such as Lili La Tigris and Weeping Susanna, and also for being quite politically active. Very happy to have Alona in the studio. Thanks for coming in today.
You're welcome. I'm very happy. I'm happy to be here.
Don't exaggerate.
No,
you don't know
we'll
yet.
see. We'll see.
Exactly. At the end of the interview, we'll decide
exactly.
on that. Let's start with what's been going on the last couple of weeks here in the literary scene in Israel concerning the Israel Prize. I mean, I'm sure you've been following this. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, tried to get involved in the matter of selecting the nominees, the judges. The judges. As a result, the ball started rolling. People resigned, then retracted their resignation when he said he will not get involved, and now decided finally to resign altogether. What do you think of this?
Listen, it's just a stage of Israel becoming slowly and safely a totalitarian state. So we can bring the rappers from Ghana, with the same success. They can make a living here. But seriously, it's only one of the things one of the examples when the government gets involved in things to do with art, for instance, right. That they're not supposed to.
Well, the Israel Prize has always been funded and supported by the government from the Ministry of Education.
Exactly.
But they were never involved in selecting the people.
Exactly. Of course, they were involved in funding it, as most of the prizes, but they were never involved in choosing the people, in firing people, judges. It's a step, it's a quantum leap.
Right. Do you think the fact that they allow themselves to become involved and say so?
Something is happening. You can feel something is happening in general. It's got to do, of course, with the upcoming elections, but we won't discuss this because, I'm surprised that there's no mivtza, war, some kind of...
in preparation for the election.
Exactly. We were waiting all the time for some little war to start in Gaza or wherever. But obviously, it's got to do with elections and with the Prime Minister Bibi's attempts to make impressive steps to show power, to show influence to whoever is impressed by this.
Right. Now, you, as we said, quite politically active. 2013, you were a member of Meretz. Are you still involved with the party?
I'm a member of Meretz. I think I'm number 87. So once we
so
win,
you might even.
I might at last, but I'm very phlegmatic. I'm not an activist, unfortunately. I like mobilizing activists and bringing them to Zahava Galon, and she works with them. But I'm not too lazy, but I'm not. It's to be an activist. It's a certain temperament, which I don't have, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I'm an author.
Knows? I'm not sure.
I'm an author. I like to sit alone in the room and think of lipsticks and
and shoes.
And shoes,
as you mentioned.
Exactly.
Now, when we look at these upcoming elections, are you hopeful? Are you fearful?
I'm sad.
You don't think that change is coming?
I think that even change will come. It will be for the worse, and I can. It's very boring, but I can, make this show you all the statistics, and you'll see that there is no chance for change. And even there will be, if there will be a certain change, the sad thing is that there's almost no left in Israel, and I think it's a very dangerous thing for any country, not just Israel. It's not because I identify with the left wing, but I think there must be, especially in countries like this, which is such a strong right wing and religious influence, there should be a strong opposition, which we don't have here.
You think that the people just they don't exist in numbers, or they don't come out and speak their minds?
many people that could be on the left side are ignorant in a way or indifferent in a way, as for instance the million of Russians that came here in the 90s. That they made a very interesting experiment with them at the time. They've shown them the political, matzah.
The agenda, political agenda.
They showed them, they presented them the political agendas of all parties.
Without telling which party.
Without telling which party. And most of them chose Meretz.
Left, yeah.
Not just left, they hate the left. When they hear the word socialism, it's like, it gives them allergy.
Yeah.
But obviously, secular, left-wing, liberal, it sounded very good to them.
Yeah.
But practically, because the left is so weak, they can't be really helpful to this kind of population.
Yeah.
While people like Lieberman, corrupt and terrible as they are, and with fascistic attitudes, they do have the power, they do have the money, and they buy people.
Let's tie your work into this discussion, because usually, at least at face value, your work isn't very political. I'm curious if you see it as political.
Look, I'm a feminist, and as they say in feminism and in the communism, everything personal is political. Whatever you do is political. But I know what you're asking. I'm not trying to avoid the question. Look, since I come from Soviet Russia, I have a problem of being political in a way, to be a mobilized literature, to become a mobilized author. You can be a political author, but it needs this very special state of mind, and it needs some kind of inner structure. Like, for instance, the Nobel Prize winner Kurzi, with his book Disgrace. He's a political writer. He knows how to do it because it's burning in his bones. His computer is burning. He's very, very passionate and deeply understands it. His sense of justice is very deep. It's almost genetic.
Right.
But usually, when people write political. Human affairs.
I see.
Human psyche, human affairs, relationships, human dialogue with himself, existential issues, more cosmopolitan things.
Also, the mediums you've worked in are pretty varied. You've written for stage, you've written novels, you've written songs. Is it easy for you to jump from one to the other?
I'm a novelist, basically.
You're a novelist.
There is no word in Hebrew for a novelist to say writer, There's this joke. One woman is standing and going, Echad, 1, 2, 3, 3. So someone is asking her, what are you doing? And she says, אני סופרת ומתרגמת. I'm counting and translating in Hebrew. It sounds better.
It works as an author as well,
אני
right?
סופרת ומתרגמת. So אני לא סופרת ואני not סופרת ומתרגמת. I'm a novelist.
You're a
so-called novelist.
Right. And so tell us a little bit, maybe before we end, about what you're working on right now.
Oh, I'm very excited about it, though I'm totally stuck, but I already know the story, and it's something I've never done before. It's a thriller. It's a psychological thriller, and it's got to do with the envy, with the artistic envy between authors, and ugliness and beauty and talent and the essence of talent, what talent means, what we choose to do with the talent. Do we leave it alone? Do we do the things we're talented for? Or do we have this kind of self-destruction that moves us to other directions which are not right for us, cosmically speaking?
It sounds very exciting. I thought when you said you were stuck, I thought maybe I could help. But once you said the talent is involved, I know that it's not, your rescue will not come from me. Alona, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, last week, outspoken Egyptian poet Hisham El-Jiah came to Israel to perform in the city of Nazareth for his fans. Most of them identified themselves as Palestinians. The visit was made despite the pressure he came under to cancel his performance. I-24 News correspondent Ihsan Abu Ghosh was there to bring us the story.
Hisham El-Jiah is an Egyptian poet whose popularity has skyrocketed in the Arab world in the past few years. His politically controversial poems in simple Arabic are able to reach the masses, including those with a lower level of education. His sarcasm and charisma make him an outstanding performer. Ignoring all the calls for boycott from the Arab world, Hisham came to Israel to perform for his fans in the Arab city of Nazareth, a controversial decision which brought joy to the northern city.
We challenged those who didn't want him to come. Tonight we enjoy the fact that he is here. He is a son of Nazareth and a son of all Palestine.
Hisham's most famous poem is Visa, which compounds the problem of pan-Arabism and identity. He mixes together nationalities and geography from Egypt to Mauritania. The poem also criticizes the hypocrisy among Arab countries which compete among each other and impose travel restrictions on their neighbors.
I think that the fact of him being here is an extension of our culture. It breaks the existing restrictions on culture that the Arab world has imposed on us.
Arab Israelis with a Palestinian identity made up most of the audience at the event. Fans which stood firm from beginning to end on their right to bring Hisham to Nazareth. Applause, standing ovation, and even gifts were given to the Egyptian poet.
I have made this drawing for Hisham. It represents his poem Visa. You can see the Egyptian flag with the Palestinian one.
In this case, those who are calling on him to boycott are making a mistake.
The evening represented a victory for the people of Nazareth, and if other artists in the Arab world will follow, this could represent the beginning of a new cultural life for Arab Israelis who have been cut off for many years from taking part in pan-Arab events. Hisham doesn't sympathize with Israel, and his poems even call Zionism a devil with a tail. But his feelings for Israel are not equivalent to the love and appreciation he feels for his Arab fans in Nazareth.
In a moment, we'll hear about rappers in Equatorial Guinea. But first, our cultural recommendation for the day.
Written on cigarette packs or scraps of newspaper, clandestine letters composed by prisoners from the Soviet gulags are being displayed at Memorial, illustrating the dark history of the network of Soviet labor camps from its creation in the 1930s up to the 1980s. Most of the letters exhibited were written in 1937 and 1938, at the height of Stalin's purges, when 700,000 enemies of the people were executed. At that time, prisoners' families did not yet know that a sentence of 10 years in camps without the right of correspondence was the equivalent of the death penalty. The exhibition is organized by Russia's top rights group, Memorial, and intends to give full voice to the victims by displaying hundreds of letters sent by Gulag inmates to their families.
And Daniel Campos is also joining us here in the studio. Hey, Daniel, great to have you.
Hello there. Great to be
doing?
back. Doing great.
You're talking about rappers in Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah, very interesting case. First of all, I've always had a lot of interest in this country. It's the only country in West Africa
Hasn't? Come on.
where they speak Spanish. The only country which is a former Spanish colony. It started out as a Portuguese one, then it became a Spanish one. They gained independence in 1968, and ever since, they don't know what democracy is, which is quite interesting.
What do you mean? So it's a totalitarian state? What's
Totalitarian regime, and from 1968 to 1979, it was Francisco Nguema, and then his nephew overthrew him in a bloody coup d'etat, killed his uncle, executed him a month after, and then he became, and he's the longest-serving dictator till this day in Africa.
Still reigning strong.
His name is Teodoro. That's the name of the president. What we're seeing right now is MC Mafia, along with two other rappers, Abosicara and Ajogengning. And they've been very brave. They rap in Spanish, and they're challenging the dictatorship, and they're risking their lives. Like I said, this is a country which was once called the Dachau of Africa.
Wow.
Can you imagine the amount of executions? 1.6 million people.
So how come they're still around, if they're still around?
Well, it's a big question. AFP actually interviewed the same guys a few years ago, 3 years ago. And the guys are still around, and they've been interviewed again.
In Equatorial Guinea. It's not that they fled the country to somewhere else.
Exactly. They haven't fled, which is pretty good news that 3 years after the first interview, they're still around, the international press. They believe they're risking their lives big time, and that at any moment something could happen. But at the same time, they feel like the population there loves them, the people. They're stars of the people, and think that maybe the government doesn't want to complicate their situation with this. It's a very fascinating case of a country. The highest.
How's the music? You know, I mean, obviously they're very brave and they're taking a huge risk here. Are they at least good with their rap as well?
The lyrics are subversive. The rap is in Spanish. I would say the production quality, and it's one of the countries with the most cheapest or lowest, we can say, production of music. But it's getting there. It's definitely.
There. All right. Well, let's hope they'll be around long enough to get that up to par as well. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you at home for watching us today. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, with another edition of Culture. Please make sure to join us again.